Hey, hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back to episode number 5 of TimeOut Sports podcast. We have an awesome speaker, really adds a lot of value, a lot of insight when it comes to tennis specifically. Being from going from a former professional athlete and then being sought after to being a professional coach by some of the top players in tennis, and then now coaching collegiately for Furman University. We have Coach Kelly Jones on the other line. But before we get into the meat of the video, I just want to give a special thanks to Spill the Beans in downtown Greenville. Awesome location. Talk about selfies when it comes to the view of just like the river in downtown. And there's a lot of unique things that put Spill the Beans apart from different other coffee shops in downtown Greenville. But Coach Kelly Jones, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. We talked a little bit before we actually got onto the show about just the unique perspective that you bring to the table, and we talked a little bit about statistics, and I'm just going to run through that really quick. Just to give a little bit of perspective, and for our viewers, whether it's a young student athlete, parent, has a student athlete, and just to give a really realistic picture when it comes to talking about playing NCAA sports, 8 million kids, high school student athletes that play sports. That's in a year, and then we're talking about this statistically from July 2016, just recently this past year, and then out of that, only 6% play college sports. You're talking about NCAA Division I, Division II, Division III. So you're talking about 500,000 kids, a little under 500,000 kids. And then out of that, if you want to play professional, you're talking about 2% out of 500,000 kids that actually will play professional. Well, if you're talking about skipping the college and skipping that college area and just going straight out of high school, I mean, I can probably, it's a couple thousand. But here we have a great speaker when it comes to someone who can really shed some light on the different perspective from being a professional player to being a professional coach, now collegiately coaching. Talk about the switch from playing professional to coaching professional, and then now coaching collegiately. What are the different perspectives? I was reading on some of the people before you started coaching at Furman, leaving comments about how you're being a student of the game, and really how that played in the different perspectives.
Yeah, I think being a coach and going from a player to being a coach of professional players, coaching individuals to coaching a college team, those are all different, but they're all related. Probably the biggest thing for me is my desire to learn and grow, and I think that would be the case with any coach. Is that you've got to grow every opportunity. You've got to grow, and going from being a professional, being singular-minded, being focused on really one thing is a good trait to have. But when you get into the real world, you got to expand your horizon. So when I went into professional coaching, one of the biggest things was getting to know the individual, getting to know, how they act, how they think, what kind of things they respond to, and it's understanding those things of 10 years of being with professional players and really coaching individuals and taking that into the collegiate atmosphere. There's a lot of changes and a lot of things that I had to adapt to, and these last 5 or 6 years have been an amazing experience of learning and growth for me. When you're dealing with a team environment, you're dealing with leadership, you're dealing with culture, you're dealing with 10 to 12 individuals that are different, and you're trying to get them to collectively work together as a team in an individual sport. All those things are definitely challenges. So there are differences, but my main thing here at Furman is to make sure that each individual person, player, student athlete, is that they have their own uniqueness, and understanding that uniqueness so that we can develop them for the greater value of the team. And these things grow over time, especially when you have a freshman entering a college system. It takes there is a ton of adjustments. I have a daughter that's playing tennis at University of North Carolina, and so I know this firsthand, and I better understand it now that my daughter's gone through it, about the adjustments, the freshman adjustments, and the adjustments to all the things that are thrown at them. It is an experience that is extremely challenging and completely different than when I was in school. But there are the changes from professional tennis to professional coaching to college coaching. They're all different, and they're all really great in their own right. The experience that I'm having here in college with being able to really help groom and grow college tennis players or student athletes is by far the best experience I've had.
I'm sure it's a developing one too. Like you said, with the different areas from playing professionally, you're really focusing on your personal body when it comes to taking care of it, resting,
yes,
playing, and then switching over to coaching. I guess personal coaching, and like you have a specific player where you're just passing on the things that you worked on, and then depending on what areas they need help in, trying
no doubt,
and then switching over to a team. I mean, you have more than it's a lot. Okay.
It's a lot of moving parts, but no doubt what you take from individual coaching to a team environment is that there is always going to be a dynamic of student athletes being tired, being burnt out, being injured, or sleep deprivation. There's all of those things that go into college athletics. And one of the things that I bring in from a professional standpoint is understanding that the individual, if they are not motivated to play, when they get on the court and if they're not motivated to play, you are going to get it's going to be trouble, and it's going to be trouble down the line. So you're trying to judge how you're going to help your players and your team so that when they get to the point where you want them to really excel and be ready for your conference and your matches, how you're going to get them so that they're ready to play. And it's a tricky balance. It's very, very tricky in college tennis. It's very tricky in the professional life because it's nonstop. So you've got to understand and you've got to know how these things work. And I think with my experience of coaching professionals and knowing that with all the training and all the travel and all the things that go into it, when you step on the court, they better be ready to play. They better be motivated. And that's one of the things in college tennis it's a tricky balance.
No, that sounds like it. Going on to the next question, breaking it down to let's go a specific player. If you were going to go to see a match, what are some qualities that would stick out from a coach's perspective that you see, man, this guy, I really think this guy or girl can really come, bring value to the team to join to come play for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the standards that we have at Furman, that I bring to Furman, is that we have a very high standards of ethics and morals. And one of my goals in college tennis, and it's it may be a very small piece of college athletics, is that I see that there's this decay in sportsmanship across the board in college tennis, and I don't think that this is a positive thing for college athletics. And while you can go out and watch a college tennis match, and to me, it's not so much about the tennis anymore. Many times, it's more about how the distraction, cheating, how the other player's going to try to do whatever they can to get inside the other player's head. And this is the kind of thing that has kind of progressed into college sports in general. But in college tennis, in my specific sport, it is a major problem, major issue, something that I hope that I can change a little bit, have a little bit of an impact where we don't cuss, we don't throw our rackets, we don't disrespect our opponent. these are the kind of things, the values that we have at our program. So when I go out and I watch players, getting back to your question, when I watch players, if I see them being disrespectful to opponents, acting pretty much maybe out of character, out of control on the court, being disrespectful to their parents, the way that they treat themselves, the way that they treat others, those are big markers for me. Those are things I will pass by any blue chip player like that, that doesn't, that is, being disrespectful and has those characteristics for a player that, that I think is going to fit in and mesh in with our team. Because I can tell you that the amount of time and energy that you have to spend on somebody who basically is way out of my philosophy of team and coach and whatever it takes. The time is it takes so much of your time, and it's unfair for the rest of the team. So I've learned some lessons along the way, but I will not recruit players that don't at least strive for that, or don't or at least their families don't have those. If they have those values, then that's one thing that I make sure that I do is I get to know. And I get to know the families to find out how close the values and how close everything's tied together. It's a very important piece for me. It's not the case for everybody, but it's very important to me.
And
so when you ask what kind of player am I looking for, those are the things. Obviously, they've got to be good tennis players, but my pool shrinks when you start looking at those pieces of it.
And that actually leads into the next question: mental toughness and playing the sport. I guess that character, and that whenever someone taunts you or does things in a game. I mean, some athletes will actually use that as leeway to actually act the way they want to act because someone pushed you overboard or someone test your buttons. So then because you say the adrenaline's going and you're playing, that gives you some basically that's justifying for the reason why they act on the field is because of what they did. And how big is mental toughness when it comes to? Well,
look, that person, that was me. If a guy ever was disrespectful on the court to me, I was right back at them in their face. That was me. And you say, well, how can you hold these guys responsible when you were acting like that? But the bottom line is that that's not mental toughness. That's not strength. That's weakness at its core. Retaliating, getting mad, getting angry, retaliating against things that you think are wrong. That's weakness. And if you look around our country or in anything, weakness is it's easy. You want to be like everybody else. Go ahead and react and be disrespectful back and retaliate. That's weakness. And so mental toughness is when things get really tough and you're able to stay true to your character and your values that you think are the most important to you and your family, your team, your whoever you think is you're being responsible for or to, but mostly to yourself. These things that I've learned on the tour, I've learned in my own career, and I've learned with other players, is that you're not taking responsibility when you're acting out, when you're doing these things. And college atmosphere is a great atmosphere to grow as long as you have somebody who is upholding the values and standards that are utmost important. And I had this conversation with the team that we played recently. I went up to them after the match and I let them know that the W and the L are not the most important thing, but the way that they acted, the way that they were respectful, they were fair, they were good teammates. I said that to me is winning. And so while they could have beat us, I told them that it wasn't their day to maybe have the W, but they are winners in that piece of it. And to me, those are very few, but when they come around, I feel like I need to say something. And it's really it's just one of those pieces of that to me, when you talk about mental toughness, you have to be mentally tough in college tennis and in college sports, and it's gonna test you every single time, and you better be ready for it. And it's got to be one of the most important pieces of your competitive growth.
Mm. And all three, all four, all five of those points that you talked about, from jumping from playing professionally to coaching, to going to see an individual and what would stick out to you personally, and then as well as what would because then when you take a player that has those values and has those core things about them, then how far you can push them as a coach, because then you realize their potential of what they can actually achieve within the sport, playing for you, and then as well as mental toughness and how big of a part.
Well, that's exactly right, because that's exactly right, because you feel like you have the ability to get them into an atmosphere so that they can reach their potential. If they're outside of that and they don't see the value in building character, then you really don't have a shot. It's not going to happen.
Beautiful. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you. This has been really helpful, because as we had the former baseball coach Jack Leggett for Clemson, he was on here the very first video, and the one thing that he said that is, if there was one or two young athletes, maybe some parents that want to share this with their kids, that got something out of this talk, then that made it worthwhile. Because at the end of the day,
no doubt,
valuing what's being said and taking it to heart and applying is what's going to make the difference.
Totally agree.
Well, I really appreciate it, Coach, and I really wish you much success in your season. And,
appreciate it. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good luck with everything. Bye now.
Almost. TimeOut Sports in general, what drives this is, in sports, the time you spend when no one's watching will determine the level of success you achieve. It's true all across the board. If you think that you're gonna, go and play, college ball one day, statistically speaking, earlier with what was being said on the video, if you're not willing to put in the work, today, not tomorrow, not when you go to that camp, not when you go to, your team when it's in season, when it's in the off season, if you're not willing to put in that work, I don't think it's reality, like a reality check. I don't think it's gonna happen. So you got to be willing to put in the work. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day, night, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this, and take care.